Well, again, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. I guess to kind of jump right into it, I usually like to have the artist I have on introduce themselves. So, tell us your name, your pronouns, what instrument you play, what your project is, that sort of thing.
Uh, I'm Ty, and I do the baritone guitar and some singing. And him, and then after hours I'll do they them after around 6. So
My name's Elise, and I play drums, and my pronouns are she, they.
I'm Carrie. I do mostly vocals, but a little bit of a sort of like noise machine thing as well. Run through some pedals and stuff. And my pronouns are she, they, mostly like she, her if you're really just cool, and then I don't care. But if you're weird, like a bad person or something, then it's definitely they, them. But then, yeah, that's it. And we're surrounded.
Cool. So, how would you describe Surrounders music to someone who's never heard y'all before?
yeah, really bad at that. We've been playing for 5 years, and probably update the genre on Bandcamp every time we release something. We've been joking that our genre should be speculative postmodern rock, but I think we're like, I don't know, kind of a mosaic punk, indie rock, alt rock thing. But I don't know if we're punk, but I like using punk because that's like the music genre everyone's really territorial about, so I'll just use it anyway.
Well, we come from a punk scene for sure, and our punk scene is kind of where we reside. So, and there are certain songs that I think sound like they should be classified as some form of punk, but yeah, we're so all over the map that it feels a little weird that nobody's ever heard. That's such a good question though. Like if no one's ever heard us before, yeah. I don't know.
I feel like other people tend to sort of label us as some type of grunge music, but that's not really what I think of personally. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, punk if it wasn't like beer punk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's more like weed punk.
Or like punk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
vodka
like,
weed punk
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
That's
sometimes liquor punk.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like y'all don't really use conventional song structures very much. I think it lends to a very interesting song design. It's pretty rare for there to be a chorus, I feel like, in y'all songs.
Yeah, at least if a chorus has to repeat, then yeah. There are definitely parts where we're like, oh, this is the chorus. We don't know why, but this is the chorus. Like when we're practicing the song, but yeah, we don't repeat stuff, and if we do come back to it, then we're like, oh, we're coming back to it at a completely different moment in the song, so it's going to be a little different this time. But yeah. ADD punk, ADD vodka punk.
ADD vodka. That's perfect.
We're spitballing all the Bandcamp labels for the next album. Yeah. So, why do you think people call y'all grunge? Because that's weird to me too.
I don't. Well,
I don't know. I feel like maybe people default to that because, like, like I don't know, like if you listen to like Nirvana, for instance, like there's like a very clear like dynamic, like going from like clean guitar to like heavy distorted guitar with like shouting vocals and then like really heavy drums over it, which like we do kind of do that, but again, that's like it's not the same for us because like it's not like verse chorus kind of stuff. Like we do take the songs in different places. But that's just kind of like my take on it. Like I feel like that's what people kind of feel is the grunge element, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe the theatric, we have sort of almost kind of not out of place in the song, I don't think, but maybe like within, you know, a show with other bands and stuff like that, we kind of get like really heavy into like the drama aspects of music. So it'll just all of a sudden we'll be like, oh, and then we'll do this part. This is going to be our Les Miserables part, or just something weird like that. So I think it also might be like, well, it's definitely not emo music, but it's like got this weird dramatic thing going on. And I guess grunge kind of has that sort of same narrative like quality to it a little bit, but I think it's our clothes. I think it's what we wear. I think it's because people listen to our album and they're like, wow, I don't know what this is. And then they see us and we're just all wearing like gray. And they're like, oh God, they're like moving a lot in this weird, like disturbed way, and they're all wearing gray. I guess it's grunge. So that's why I think.
There's a lot of angst in the vocals too.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I think there's angst, and then like the chord progressions can be pretty dark too when we do have darker moments. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not like a grunge head, but if someone told me like, hey, here's the best grunge band in the world and you're gonna love it, I'd be like, sweet, because I've always wanted to like grunge because I like certain elements of that style. Yeah, I think it's just a darker, angstier kind of thing. Or just our clothes.
I think it's funny you bring up emo because this may be me projecting, but that's like the best comparison I could think of in my head was like second wave emo because I get a lot of Moss Icon vibes from your music. I don't know, that's like a really obscure band, but and then like with some like Rainer Maria vocals and maybe a little bit of like Twinkle Daddy guitars. That's like the best way I could describe it, which is just like second wave emo bands and terms.
Yeah, I can hear the
Yes.
Reina Maria. What was the first band you said?
Moss Icon, which I guess is really more like a first wave emo band.
Moss. I've never heard it.
We'll have to, yeah, I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah,
That's
you're
exciting.
yeah, you're not alone though. That like yeah, when we're on tour, we get like Paramore a lot, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. We're like a little ink blot test.
Yeah.
Rorschach Punk.
I mean, I loved Linkin Park. I probably still love Linkin Park to this day, if I'm gonna be totally honest. So I mean, you know, it's a big mishmash of all kinds of stuff there for sure. So
That's what streaming did to us. Everybody listens to everything now, so we all sound like everything.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Well, getting a little bit out of how to describe your music, I guess, trying to look up what information there is about y'all on the internet before this, and I find like absolutely nothing. So, what's y'all's band's origin story?
Well,
Was that 5 years ago?
I think it was about 6. Because we moved here 7 years.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years ago, me and Carrie moved back here from Chicago and were writing songs and played with a drummer that had kind of a life breakdown and didn't work out. And then we played with another drummer for our first main album, and then a little split. Also had a kind of a life breakdown and didn't work out. And then we've been playing with Elise for 3, 4 years. Yeah, so it must be 6.
Yeah.
And then when Elise joined, I feel like we all three of us had kind of similar palettes for heavier and louder stuff that let us kind of explore a little more dynamics. And so yeah, I guess, is that an origin story, or should I tell like a story like, yeah, we met Death Grips in Atlanta, gave us the name. No.
Yeah, we were all born at separate times. It was tied into our fate for all three of us to be in a band together eventually.
Yeah, the string the fates hold, like usually it's just like one per person, but we have the unfortunate case of all three of us just have to share one string. And so, you know, if it gets cut, it's all of us, that kind of thing. And so it's same with the band where it's like, oh, well, I guess we're all in a band all of a sudden. And we had to kind of figure out how to do that because of fate. And so, yeah, it's weird.
But we've all been playing music ever since we were all teenagers in different bands and stuff. So it was bound to happen eventually, I guess.
Are y'all all originally from Pensacola?
Yeah, I am for sure.
I'm originally like as a little kid from Charlottesville, Virginia, and then moved here when I was 11. But I moved to Navarre, which is like 30 minutes away from here. But basically, I came of age in the area. So yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like as a teenager and like playing music and stuff, yeah. And I've lived in a few different cities, like on and off, but mostly Pensacola.
I guess y'all have a bit of an unconventional lineup since you don't have a bassist. Was that like a conscious decision or something that just kind of came up because of who you had to play with at the time?
I got a tax return that let me buy a baritone guitar, so that's all I wanted to do at the time. Yeah, I don't even know if it ever came up. Like, yeah, I don't know how intentional it was. It would be it's a very delicate balance because, like, as we were talking about, our music's really complex and nothing repeats, and we go a lot of different places. So bringing someone in, like, just before you even talk about like personal vibes and like dynamics and stuff, would be pretty hard to do. And we can learn songs really quickly now. Like we can basically show up with a song and have it ready to go in like 2 practices, which is really cool. So I wouldn't want to mess that up at all.
Yeah, we used to be, I think we went in different phases. It kind of started as like the entire, the whole band. Okay, well, the scene wasn't as quite as robust at the time either as it is now. It was kind of in one of those little dips that Pensacola has gone through the ages or whatever. And so it wasn't like, oh, we could just have anybody. So that was one aspect, but also it was kind of an exciting limitation because of the whole baritone guitar thing and just kind of the way Ty writes songs and the way that, we were just kind of doing that together and stuff. But there was like a little stint there where we had heard, where we were a slightly newer band when people would see us. And we had heard from a few people like, man, if y'all had a bassist, whew, y'all would be great. And so I think in response to that, just sort of as like almost a counterbalance, I became pretty protective of like, we're a 2-piece and then I do vocals and that is it. And you can just go away and with your weird advice.
Yeah.
But it's not really like that anymore. But
to be fair, also in those days, I was playing out of like a tiny Line 6 amp versus now where I have like a bass cabs and a guitar amp like stacked on it and a whole octave split, and so it's very full now. But yeah, it was pretty dinky back then. So yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I never thought about it. So are there specific amps for baritone guitar, or do you have to split it between a bass amp and a regular guitar amp?
You don't have to. I mean, I guess a guitar amp is probably what you would use. Like if we did have a bass player, then no, I wouldn't be playing out of a bass amp. But I'm sure there's people that do all sorts of stuff. I wouldn't split if we had a bass player, but since we don't, I got to do it.
Fair. Yeah, y'all mentioned Ty's, writing or style or whatever. So what is y'all's process for writing songs, considering it is a little more unconventional and y'all have a unique lineup?
I guess I start the process and Right. The guitar, kind of the skeleton for the song with the guitar. Sometimes that ends up just being the structure of the song, but a lot of times it's, kind of playing with stuff in between other stuff during practice, coming back, piecing it together, and then coming back to practice. But yeah, from there, once there's guitar parts and once there's a general structure, it's just kind of like Elise comes up with her stuff. If there's problems in the song, like, oh, this part could be so good, or oh, this part is really loud for no reason or something, we all kind of figure that stuff out together. We figure out a lot of transitions together. And that's with the music. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, basically, like, just in that whole process, I'll just be kind of there for the whole thing, mostly kind of getting my bearings, because sometimes it'll be like, Ty'll show me, like, okay, I think I have a new song or a new part or something, and I'll be like, I really, really like that, but like I won't be able to exactly like hold it in my head enough to like maybe go off by myself and like write something. So I'll just kind of like be there, kind of working through those things as a group and stuff. And, very, very infrequently will I even, have an idea for either one of them to do. It's mostly me just kind of collaborating and being like, that's great. I like that. Yeah, you're right, et cetera, et cetera. And then, yeah, once in a while I'll be like, Elise, what if you did like and it won't make any sense, and she'll figure it out and it'll be better, that kind of thing. And then, I'll kind of hum very quietly to myself while they're going over the song over and over again, because I'm scared that they'll hear me, and it'll be bad. And then eventually I get to where I feel like I can no longer toy with it in my head and I have to get their input on it, and I start to get loud. Then they'll kind of do the same thing with me, where they'll listen to my stuff, and then me and Ty will kind of get together once there's some sort of cohesive thing.
Carrie is basically like secretly building the melody skeleton while we're working on the music. And then all of a sudden, one practice, she'll just be singing. Or, well, I guess before then, yeah, we write the melodies together and the lyrics together. And we used to be kind of like, I don't know if strict's the right word, but we used to be really dedicated to that being like a really balanced, like half and half kind of process. Every line we go over together, every melody, like we have to both really love. But for all this new material, we've kind of let each other like split off, and like, there's a song where I wrote all the lyrics. There's a song where Carrie, or a few songs where Carrie wrote all the lyrics. And yeah, so it's, I don't know, it feels a lot more organic, and we're more able to be a little more introspective with the stuff we want to write about.
Yeah, well, and I think doing that, like kind of letting go a little bit and being like, you know what, like, yeah, like you can kind of just handle that whole thing. We've kind of ended up doing that even within songs, just like naturally. And I'm sure some of that has to do with the fact that we've been writing songs together for 5 years, and we've been diligently negotiating every single line. So we have each other's voices in our heads when we're writing our parts, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not as we both have to have two hands on every single aspect of this. It's more like, okay, well, yeah, last night I just kind of wrote these two lines or whatever, and it's like, oh, that's great, I love that, kind of thing. So, but it's not like we still put all four hands on stuff too, but
yeah,
it's not quite as, we're not as scared. Yeah.
Does Elise write any lyrics?
No. Not for this. I just focus on the drums and that's it. Me and Ty have a separate project that I play guitar for and he plays drums for. And I write the songs for that. But for Surrounder, I'm very content just letting them handle all of that stuff.
But she will chime in with some really badass backup screams from the drum set, which I'm always really, really happy about, because we kind of work through so much together that there'll be some stuff that you'll just like pick up on some shit, and we'll just like be going through a song and you'll just be like, and I'm like, oh yes, yes, perfect. Perfect place.
I do kind of like wish that I was like able to play drums and sing like more fluidly, I guess, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's still just fun, just like chiming in with like some strings and stuff every now and again.
Damn, if you could sing too,
Just like have a microphone.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to handle the fame. It would be.
We'd be too rich and we couldn't be a punk band enough.
Again, that'd be like 3-part harmonies and stuff.
You could just be the Beach Boys. You could just be like, screw what we've been doing. We're the Beach Boys.
Maybe eventually it'll turn into like a Carpenter's style project. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. No one's allowed to die.
What's the name of the project that y'all two are in together?
It's called Box Cutter.
It's obviously my favorite band. They're incredible.
Better than Surrounder, the one I should have interviewed.
Yeah, seriously. I'll just go. I should just leave and just watch. They're incredible. I never dance as hard, I don't think, as I do. I mean, it's like heavy. It's not like disco or something, but I dance like an insane person.
Mm-hmm.
You engage in the slam dance?
A little bit, a little bit. I dabble.
There's been like rocket lines in like in front of the crowd. It's been like a recurring thing.
That is true. That's not a joke.
Yeah, and like some little push picks and stuff. So it's fun. Yeah, it's like heavy music that's like danceable. Ty's got a really good brain for percussion, so it's like got like really interesting like rhythms and stuff going on too. And then basically just like generally like wall of noise, like distorted noise, like melodies kind of going through the songs. But yeah.
I guess hopping back a little bit to Surrounder then. So when y'all write the lyrics, I guess are there like certain themes you go for with that? Or is it just kind of, I guess how do y'all write lyrics? More so like from individually, I suppose, is the question.
It's a great question. It's totally, it's really case by case, unfortunately. Because there's not really like I mean, I guess to be fair, at times there are processes to it that we kind of fall into, and then we just kind of do that until we stop doing that. Like, for instance, it'll be like, sometimes it's, oh, we're writing an album and there's, we've already got 7 songs and we're kind of thinking in terms of the whole thing. And so we're like, you know what, we haven't written a song about this kind of broad category, but the categories are usually pretty broad. So it'll be like, we haven't written like a really like straightforward political song, and all these 7 songs or something are like, we haven't really written like a human experience song. I mean, that's never happened before, but you know what I mean?
I know. Yeah, I almost feel like that's the first, like, okay, let's make this one really straightforward. And then it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. It never happens.
But yeah, I think there is I mean, it starts broad and then, we kind of try and figure out ways to illustrate like this idea or explore whatever idea we want to write about. Although sometimes it can just be like you're driving and you hear a really good line and then you're like, okay, what song does that line live in?
Mm-hmm.
But I think generally we're pretty dedicated to, we want to explore things that maybe aren't usually explored in songs, especially political songs, aspects of politics and like life that's actually situated within politics that we haven't heard songs do before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not necessarily like, oh, Bernie Sanders should have won the thing, but not like he's the best, but not like politics proper or whatever. It could be interrelational politics, but I feel like generally there's some kind of political drama kind of as the force in all the stuff that we write. But I think it's just inspiration, just like either just kind of like comes out of nowhere, comes out of real life experiences, and you just go from there.
Yeah. I think like as an example, like our first album, the very first song we wrote, which turned out to be almost like a reflexive way of kind of, because the first way you do things, if you're like, oh, that we like that or whatever, then you tend to re-gravitate towards that again, probably. But and it's definitely been true from this a lot since then. But it was like, let's write a song about technology and just like the weirdness of having like a digital identity and just all that stuff. And then we got a bottle of whiskey, me and Ty. We drank a whole bottle. This is way back when. I don't think I could do it. I don't drink quite as much as I used to. And we just drank the whole bottle of whiskey, and we were just like yelling ideas at each other basically until we were like, we're done, we did it. Like, that was how we wrote a lot of songs. So
I mean, I
some
don't know
version
if we
of
got a lot done that.
we finished a song that we finished Robots.
I think it was. All I remember is getting the one line, "America recycles trash."
That's because
Was
that's the
the
story that I
main-
keep telling.
Was
Is
the main line.
we got we finished the whole song. I'm pretty sure we finished the whole song.
This is what drinking a
There's a
whole
whole bottle
bottle
of whiskey.
does to you. You can't really remember what exactly the story was.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's why you gotta watch out for that.
Yeah, I definitely see the political, like, I mean, I wouldn't, I'd say most of the songs seem pretty expressly political that I see throughout. And it seems one of the running things that seemed to be apparent to me was like alienation was just very common throughout it. So it makes sense that one of the first songs you wrote would be like digital technology. I don't remember the name. I guess you said it was robot. I feel like when I was listening to that, it definitely came off as like alienation in like a different way, which I thought was really cool. I mean, I'm guessing y'all were coming from a leftist perspective, just because I know like like one of the digital distributors on one of your couple of your things on Spotify was like anarcho Comcast or something. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's our friend. That's our friend Nathan's distro kid or whatever.
Yeah.
That's his account.
But yeah, alienation.
I guess the thing that's really cool because I feel like, as you were saying, you're able to kind of individualize or like make more personal a lot of like political things instead of just being like, oh, this is politician X or whatever, which is also like a really cool alternative. I feel like to the like navel gazing of a lot of more like introspective music, because you still are able to make it more like systematic and political. So yeah, so I think that I don't know. I thought that was really cool about your music in general. So is that like a purposeful thing to like we're gonna write a song about alienation, or is that like a just kind of happened, or it just happens to run through a lot of things because obviously that's existence in today?
Yeah, I think alienation is probably that last aspect you said. It's just like for me, it's the most common visceral like kind of symptom of anything else we're gonna write about. It's either it's alienation or stress, feeling in financial insecurity, all that. I mean, it all will wrap up to you just feeling, or at least for me, feeling really disconnected from a life that like I'm watching fly by surprisingly quickly. And so I don't know. And maybe that's like the navel gazy aspect of it too, is is focusing on that, or always kind of seeing that somewhere in the problem. Because loneliness is just such a terrible thing for obviously I hate experiencing it, but I don't know, it wreaks havoc on people in sure a lot of different ways, but also, very, it's just such a common terrible feeling that we all just constantly have, and it's just ridiculous that that's the case. I don't know.
Yeah, I love Pretty Alienation because it really, I just wish that I would have said what you said. That was just so kind, and also just like knowing of you, because I just heard that word and I was like, yes, that's a word. Like I've gotten like from like kind of people outside music scenes who come and see my band because they, it's either my dad and his girlfriend or, a coworker or whatever, just somebody who's totally kind of out of the loop or whatever, of what underground music is like. And they're always like, oh my God, it's so like angry and like pessimistic. Like, not even if they're necessarily criticizing me, they're just like kind of surprised. And I remember when my dad said that to me, he was like, "You're still angry, huh, Carrie?" I was like, what? No. And it really like, it always kind of like surprises me that people from like kind of an outside perspective have that perspective, because it's kind of like the opposite to me, where I feel like without having kind of like an optimistic imagine, I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to feel alienated from something because I wouldn't know it existed, because it's not here. It's like the world is it's sort of a negation of a lot of things that I think very naturally feel either we're being told is really here, like community, or like we're more connected than we've ever been or whatever. And you're kind of being lied to about that in some way, or we just kind of naturally like are really like hungry for it, like the fact that we are all lonely, or that we're struggling financially, or that we feel like all of the biggest problems are so far outside of our control, and the stratification of the wealthy and the powerful and us, and the rest of us, and all that kind of stuff, that you feel alienated from a better situation, a better world, a better brain, a better sense of self, a better family, a better, friend group, whatever. And so, you have to be able to imagine what that would be like in order to understand that you're alienated. And I think that's why, for me, it's really important. And I keep gravitating towards, with Ty, and all of us together, kind of like formulating those. It's all kind of centered around that, is because that's kind of my way of like communicating hope to people too, is like, hey, we know that we're alienated. Like, if you're feeling all this stuff, like because of this subject or that or this, like, we feel that too. We know that we can do better, that like the world can do better than this, and like should. And we're pissed too, like you're not alone, even though you're alone, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. Yeah, definitely.
It's also the case that we'll be inspired by different concepts that we've encountered in like either political philosophy or like theory or something, that we think like, oh, knowing that concept and being able to see the world with that concept in mind helps us like interpret ourselves and interpret the world more truthfully. So that can also be like we should write it about that fucking thing Baudrillard said or whatever, because that's like going on a lot. Or like Winter Years, the last song off the first album we did with Elise on the drums, was just from like a single quote by Felix Guattari, who's like this Italian leftist psychoanalyst person, who was saying,
the anti-Oedipus guy.
the anti-Oedipus guy, yeah. And he was it's this quote about like after the 90s, there's no more events, kind of in the like, oh, liberalism is won, nothing, there's no more revolutions that are going to happen, blah 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 blah. But he kind of takes that general consensus into like, oh, we're just in like a really deep winter, and we're going to be in a very deep winter for like a few decades of feeling like there's constantly stuff going on through like how hyper media is and stuff, but really there's no world changing things actually occur
of any meaning. Or
which of course September 11th happened, and I kind of like I don't know about that. The world changed a lot after we invaded the Middle East and stuff, but
I don't think that's what we have in mind.
No, it's definitely not what I dream of when I think of something real happening in the world. It's like, we invaded the Middle East, though. It's like, oh, okay, well, don't do that. I did not mean to. No.
was thinking like maybe something better would happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you speak up a little bit louder at least? It's hard for the mic to pick you up a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit.
You wanna
Yeah,
scoot up?
this is back here making jokes.
Yes, they're James. Okay.
Let me hear those jokes.
That's funny.
Oh, I don't know. I was just saying that like we 9/11 isn't the event, the invasion of Iraq and all of that weren't the events that we would have liked to see happen. I'll go on record saying.
Yeah.
Even quarter. Double quarter. You really feel that way.
Yeah, we're against the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
Surrounders is Iraq protest music.
Yeah, I do, I don't know, because like obviously like I'm outside of like the lyrical writing and stuff like that, but I do like it is like a format and like a style that like I really appreciate, and it was like something that kind of like I don't like it kind of like blew my mind before I was even in the band, and I was just like seeing them play for like the first time because like it, you know, like we've been saying, like it's not like punk music in the sense that it's like, you know, we're wagging our finger at something or that like we hate something so much that we have to just like scream about it or whatever. But like, I don't know, it's like the lyrics that like y'all write, like, it's like anytime I've been to like a live show and like been in the audience for Surrounder, like everybody's just kind of, it's kind of like everybody's just kind of like able to like commiserate. Like, I don't know. That's just, I don't know. That's always been something really special. Like, it's not like, or I don't know. It just, like, it feels like, not that you can't commiserate with other music, but like, it feels like a very, like, special kind of, I don't know. For instance, like, you could go to a show and, you know, you could enjoy the lyrics and you could all be singing along or whatever. But like, I feel like with Surrounder, it's like, if you're singing along to the lyrics, like, you're all just kind of like in agreement that we're all being alienated, and you can sort of there's kind of like a camaraderie and that isn't always like present in like the lyrics of like other music, I guess. I don't know. That might be a weird way to describe that,
No,
but
that's really
I like that. I like that you think that.
it is too. That makes me very happy. Very happy.
it's very special.
Yeah, I definitely think your music, especially going back to your song structure, elicits a certain kind of special response. I know at least for me, like when I was listening to it, which I've only seen y'all live once, and that was a while back. And I just all I really remember was really liking it, and that was like, but like 7 months ago or something. It was like October. But like when I listen to like your recorded music, at least it's like because of the song structure, it seems like it's like a lot of just tension that keeps building up and up and up, but without necessarily a lot of like cathartic release, like I feel like a lot of other music is, which I think and kind of keeps me on like my edge of my seat or whatever intense as I listen to it, which I think is actually a really good thing. I mean this as a compliment. But then that kind of goes back into the whole like alienating thing. Of course, there's not like a necessarily a natural conclusion to this thing if that's what it's about. I don't know. Maybe that's also a weird way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I dig that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, exactly. The sense of closure has to, or there not being any closure. Yeah, it has to be kind of particular because we're wanting it all to be situated in the actual real world and not, you know, do a cop out ending to anything. Yeah, no cop outs. A cab includes cop outs.
Yeah. It might actually, now that you're saying that too, it might, now, I'm just thinking this right now, that might actually have a lot to do with gravitating towards the, like, the style, the lyrics, the way we write, the rhythm, the guitar, just everything, the way, you know, we sing, kind of gravitate towards each other because without, it's like, for instance, with writing lyrics, you can't, you know, have a song where you're like, there's this unending, you know, feeling of like emptiness or something, you know, like that. and then try to wrap that up at the end. Like there's nowhere to go. It's just like there's an unending feeling of emptiness, but at least we have each other. Like it's like, what do you do with that? So it's almost like
Yeah.
it all kind of mirrors itself that way, I think. Because yeah, the stuff that you write, Ty, guitar wise, the preliminary kind of skeleton part, the payoffs aren't in some sort of what's it called? They'll both just use this word, and now I can't think of it. Like a conclusion.
Closure.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not where like the feeling of satisfaction really comes from.
Yeah.
And so it all kind of has to have that aspect, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certain like episodes in life have closure, but I feel like closure is always deferred in terms of, you can get breaks from stuff. You can have a surprise day off, like just when you need it, and that's really nice. Or, you can help your friend like leave a really fucked up situation, and that's a good closure to that episode, but it's still all situated in this scenario of hyperactive fucked upness. So.
Yeah. Well, it's just eras of your life go by, and this is what I tell myself when I get afraid of dying, is that I've already just died so many times, because it's just like, even if nothing crazy happens, if like 5 years pass, you're not that person anymore. So it's like, even moments where you get kind of closure, it's always within this endless kind of little slinky of your years passing by too. So
And you only find it like after the fact.
yeah. And then it doesn't matter. It matters, obviously, but like it doesn't satisfy the thing you needed way back when. It's always
Interesting point. Does one ever truly experience closure, or simply discover that it's already happened?
yeah. Well, no, when you die, you definitely everything, but I guess in the world ends. I don't know.
Plot twist, everyone just goes to purgatory and it's just like regular life, but everyone's immortal.
Right, exactly. That's what it feels like. That's what 2023 feels like, just a little bit, except not literally immortal, but whoa. Infinite lots of things. For sure.
It's everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
Going back to y'all were talking about the kind of like different things that have inspired lyrics. Are any other texts that have been like particularly influential or like inspired certain songs? I know you have like one song named after Adorno, I think another one after Foucault, so obviously you're pretty well read.
Yeah. I don't really read Adorno. There, well, yeah. I just mean that guy. He's either a bad writer or I'm really stupid. And I think too often people who try to read theory think that they're stupid when they're really just reading a bad writer that's really smart, I'm sure, but there's one essay by Adorno I really like, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, definitely I like Foucault a lot. He's easier to read for me, even though maybe other people's ideas I like more. Obviously Marx and stuff. And I like Deleuze, but I don't like reading Deleuze.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Foucault, though. I really like reading.
Yeah. There's this writer, oh my God. Hold on, let me look up this guy real quick.
Look it up. And,
and you can talk about it.
Yeah, and you look up. Yeah, I mean, definitely lots of all those guys. Very like that stuff is really inspiring. That kind of deep reading, because it's almost like as soon as you like feel like you really kind of are getting something from an idea that is so hard to, set up, frame, kind of have some sense of background and context of, like, some of those ideas are so disorienting that it makes you want to write a song about it. Once you get it, you're like, oh my God, okay, so like we have to call this thing impossible exchange, because like I get it now. It's like that makes so much sense, that kind of stuff. but I also just get inspired by a lot in like whatever book I'm reading, or even video games I'm playing. Like I'm playing Breath of the Wild right now, and I'm just like everything in my mind is like painted over with that. But Ursula Le Guin like totally changed my life. Sci-fi, high fantasy writer who sadly died a couple years ago. I read the whole tome of Earthsea, and yeah, what is the?
Aren't you reading Sylvia Federici a lot?
I was back then, Sylvia, but with Caliban and the Witch, super influential. We made a whole sticker from like an illustration of that book and stuff.
Oh, dang, that's really cool. It's been on my reading list for a long time. Caliban and the Witch.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. I love it. But like, I always want to like suggest it to people, but then I think, well, you kind of already have to you kind of have to hear about this book and then be like, oh, I already wanted to read that book before I knew it existed for me to even sell it to you. Because it's so like, I think it's like, Middle Ages, the witches and feminism and anti-capitalism. And it's just like, it's a very niche, but like, yeah, it's wildly inspired me. And yeah, and even, like the Tao Te Ching is stuck in there. Like, I'll just be like, oh my God, that one thing I read in the Tao Te Ching today randomly is just like, cannot get it out of my head. I'll try to sneak it into a lyric somewhere. Like, it's kind of from the Tao Te Ching.
That's very true. Yeah, the album we're working on now, it has a lot of doubt. Like that comes up in a lot of the songs we're writing when we're talking about what direction to take it. Carrie brings up the doubt a lot these days.
It just works for everything. Got an answer for everything.
Well, I guess that's kind of the point of Taoism, is that like everything's connected, everything requires each other, and anything can be a good or bad thing depending on the context. I don't know, like I've been engaged with it in a long time, but when I was younger, that was like, I read a decent amount about Taoism. I never actually read the whole Tao Te Ching, but I definitely thought I think it influenced me in some ways, even though I don't necessarily am conscious of all the way it was. I was like while I was going through it, let me figure out what religion I'm supposed to be type deal, which I know that's more, it's just as philosophical as anything. But the thing I think is really interesting about that text is that English translations, you can do like 50 different translations that seem so different. They're all like accurate translations.
Right. Exactly.
That's why Ursula Le Guin's translation is so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's the one I need to go for.
Definitely.
I would suggest it. I mean, she's such a I could talk about Ursula Le Guin all day. If Earthsea is like, Ty got it for me for Christmas one year, like a whole tome of all of the books of Earthsea, and I read it for like 3 months only, which was really fast for how big it was, because it was like, I just wanted to like live in that world she was building, because it felt like she really understood this world in a way that like was so deeply comforting to me. So to have like that understanding, her understanding, build a whole world I could enter into, it was like coming home kind of thing. So yeah, as soon as it was like, oh, she freaking spent a ton of time, translating the Tao Te Ching, I'm totally gonna trust her. It was
that's like a fantasy book that just like, it has familiar, magic and stuff like this, but the mechanisms of everything, you just read about peculiar ways that things work, and you realize like, oh my God, the old way people writing magic is like super fucking patriarchal, or like, oh, of course that's how they trade, because they're not freaking capitalists or whatever. I don't know. It's really creative, really imaginative.
And she's incredibly subtle, because she's visionary. She's such a good writer that she doesn't have to, none of it's in your face. It's completely constructed into like the bones of the world itself. And it's just completely beautiful. It's like there can be like bad guys in it, but like they're bad guys because they're either highlighting something very obviously bad about our world and they're a full representation of that, or they're a bad guy that could somehow exist in this other place that doesn't have any. It's just, it's absolutely wonderful. So that all slips it. Obviously, that's very inspiring. So a lot of different books.
Yeah, I really want to return to those, because I read them when I was like, at least I read like the first 3 Earthsea books when I was like 11 or 12. And so like, I feel lucky to have read it then, but obviously there were so many things I missed. So I just didn't have this big craving to read Le Guin that I have not delved into really yet, other than like when I did that then. I did start the Lieutenant of Darkness last year, but then like I got busy and didn't finish this. I had to return it to the library. But yeah, agreed. Very great author. But
Yeah, when you were 11, that's probably why you're so cool.
Yeah, for real.
it's all because of Ursula K. Leguin.
You owe it all to Ursula. No, no.
I think I'm gonna start saying that now. Well, I guess like one last thing before we kind of move on to different topics. Do you have like a specific political goal, like Surrounder as like a political apparatus, or is it just happens to be that's what y'all's topics are about and then exist in that way?
You mean like, what do you mean a political goal?
I don't know. So it seems like all y'all's lyrics are political, and y'all obviously have political views of things and inspirations. So I feel like a lot of bands are like, oh, our band is expressly political. We have these ideas we want to be proponents of, and share or then therefore change consciousness or whatever in whatever way, which is obviously like dependent on the band. So I guess it kind of goes into what y'all's view of music and politics and how do they interact, I guess, generally. Sorry, that's still not a very clear way of asking that in any way.
No,
I totally
no.
disagree. I think that's a really, really good question.
Yeah. It's a really big question. So yeah.
I think it's like a twofold thing. One, I'm not entirely sure how to answer yet, and I would need to think for a moment, which is for how that applies to Surrounder is when feeling the need to write these like this kind of topic or that kind of topic that all kind of circle around the sphere that we write about or play about, or because it's in the music, all that stuff. What is the need that we're trying to fulfill, and like how do other people come into play? As in, like, do we want to have an effect on people? Are we trying to connect with people? Are we trying to tell them about ourselves? Are we trying to say something about the world? And like, why? And then the other part is like, what does it mean to be a band in the 21st century? Well, now we're pretty deep into the 21st century, and to be like part of a DIY punk community and all of that stuff, which I feel like I have a better handle on why that than the other. But yeah. Were you gonna say something? Maybe I need to think.
I don't want to cut you off.
Well, I guess I know it. With the second part. I guess with the second part though, like what it means to be, like why I want to be in a band that is obviously like kind of contending with reality instead of like more of a escapism kind of band, which I love. I've been in, in all that where it's like, let's talk about love or let's talk about funny things or whatever. Let's just party and be together. I've just been in kind of like, I just always kind of fall in love with parts of the community that have a lot to do with sort of politically inspired organizations. So such as, oh, we really like getting together and having house shows. And we like getting together and having house shows, not because there are venues, but because we want to have a safe space and we want to do it ourselves, because doing it ourselves, we all agree, feels better, and we want to feel at home together, and we want to like know each other more like how family and friends know each other rather than how colleagues or how showgoers that are all in this bar together know each other. I've always kind of just gravitated towards those groups of people and like been really inspired to like organize things like that. And constantly like I just get really excited when the scene gets reinvigorated or something. Like we've been writing short films and like just like doing this cinema fest kind of stuff, and that's exciting to me because it's like that feels like it's part of Surrounder's world and like my world in the band and all of that stuff. Anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's just that's political to me in terms of like what I'm actually kind of doing while I'm doing this band, I guess. Yeah,
there's so many levels to like the question of like what is your political goal as a band? I mean, on the just to like get it out of the way, like we're not like, oh, we're the anarcho syndicalist band, or we're the autonomous like left Italian band or whatever. Like as far as like being in a specific camp or something like that, we're not like that, and we don't really talk about politics like that. Like even going back to like you're asking what like we read and stuff, like I don't even really read theory anymore at all. I'll watch like videos and stuff. It's more about gathering ideas that you can use. But so there's nothing like that going on where we're like, even though it can feel like maybe there's an element of propaganda or something, it's more about like giving ourselves and whoever else fits in with how we write like a little home to have that otherwise like they wouldn't have, which with that comes with like, okay, we have a goal of like creating something new, and that's good, that's like really vulnerable and like embarrassing sometimes. Like there are definitely a lot of songs only from like 2 years ago that I could listen to and be like, ugh, that's like oh
yeah.
I don't want to sing that line ever again. But even stuff like that, like even being okay with being vulnerable, being okay with being overly political for no reason is like, I don't know. I guess the whole capitalist, neoliberal system of the world is so thoroughly involved in all aspects of our lives that it's kind of every move we make, unless you're trying to be raw and like truthful, and doing that, it's going to sweep you in one direction or another. Because one could say like, oh, if you're making music that's not commercially viable, then that's really political. And I think that like fighting off what is commercially viable and what can like spread really quickly, as a viral video or as a viral song, that's like corporate thinking, that's very commercialist thinking of what music should do. And so even on a level of picking out chords and stuff, that comes into play. And then I think like also all three of us are kind of unlikely to be in a band that's as active as we are, because we're all so fucked up in like some way or another, that like mental health or just financially constantly or whatever. And I think like having a kind of pact between the three of us that like, hey, we're just gonna do this and we're gonna take really good care of each other, and no pressure if like we got to cancel the tour with Metallica or whatever we're doing. I think that's really anti-capitalist. I think that's really like a political maneuver, and I think like that catches on, like especially locally. Like I think just treating other bands like that and booking shows like that and stuff, I think is like kind of the main. If I have to boil it down, that's kind of the thing, is like just be really raw and like do something new, even though it's gonna be like shitty in a way. I don't know. That's a weird note to end on for that.
Things don't feel shitty. If it's not shitty to anybody else, it won't feel shitty if it's you. Where it's always just fucking scary.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it definitely doesn't feel like there's like an overarching like goal or anything like that. But like I will say like it has just been really nice to sort of like be able to like participate in stuff that isn't, necessarily like capital driven. Like like we get the opportunity to play like fundraiser shows every once in a while. And like if we like go over, especially like if we go out of town.
And that's the meaning of life, basically.
The end.
Perfect way to come back from a disconnect.
Yeah. Oh shoot. Okay, I lost my train of thought a little bit, but I guess I was just saying like things that like I don't know if like it's even stuff that we've necessarily like intentionally tried to do, but like things that like I like that are political about what we're doing is that like there is kind of just like an ongoing resistance to, well, for one thing, like music that's like nostalgia based.
Yeah.
That's like a big thing because like that stuff's just boring and it's just it like people get too comfortable with it and I don't know. And there's just like a whole culture around that that's like very like commodified. It's really refreshing to just like all three of us be trying to do something that's yeah, like even if it feels like maybe like we'll try out a new song and even the ones that like we don't necessarily like after time has passed or whatever, like it's still something that doesn't necessarily sound like everything else or whatever. Like it has elements of like, I guess, vulnerability and just like trying to do something new at least, like if nothing else. I don't know, like I don't know if it cut off or not, but I was saying that like we get opportunities to like play benefit shows, like there's like a transgender initiative in town and like every once in a while like we get to raise money for them and we just get the opportunity to play shows that allow crowds that are all ages and that are sometimes like sliding scale, so nobody has to be excluded from enjoying a little bit of like art and music and culture and stuff like that. So I mean that's just, I don't know, that kind of like feels like an achievement even if it's like a small thing. It feels like a bit of a political achievement or goal, I guess.
I'm gonna be thinking about that like all night, and then I'm gonna send you like the longest Instagram message.
I'm okay with that. I can send you an email if that's easier. I don't know I don't know what the text limit is for an Instagram message. We do in paragraphs, I guess. I'm always down to read. But all right, it has been about an hour. I have some other stuff I can talk to y'all about if you want to, or if you, I do want to like be respectful of your time too.
I think like 10 or 15 more minutes, and then we got to go to another band practice.
Cool. We'll do lightning round.
What?
What?
We'll do lightning round questions.
Oh,
lightning round.
One random thing I noticed a lot of your song titles have parentheses. Is there a certain meaning behind the songs that have those versus ones that don't?
The parentheses ones are all like there's like robot song or Foucault song or yeah. So if the name of the song, basically, if we never come up with a name for the song, then it's just like, oh, this is that song.
But then we have to come up with a name. So like sometimes a lot of them will be like, here's the title, and then in parentheses, here's another title. And then some of them will just be parentheses. So yeah, the ones that are just parentheses were like,
those are all just songs.
These are just songs. Yeah, this is like, don't worry about this not having like a title. This is like it's like a description, I guess. And then, and there was the descriptions get a little zany, like this is robot song. It's like, that doesn't really tell you anything until you listen to it anyway. But it's the one about robots, But then sometimes it'll be like, if we're like, you know what, I think that this song is Potato Man Part 2. You know what I mean? Right? Everybody, we'll all kind of agree, like, yeah, this is. Then we'll like usually come up with like a title for the song by itself because it's not literally Potato Man Part 2. It's like it's got its own. It doesn't have any of the lyrics from the first one. It doesn't sound the same at all, but it's just like kind of a spiritual sister of the song. So we'll put both, and we'll put, it's Potato Man Part 2, like as a description, that kind of thing. So that's all it really is.
I like that. One random thing I noticed, there's 2 different songs that talk about working when Leonard Cohen died. So what's the big deal about Leonard Cohen for y'all?
I was just at work when Leonard Cohen died, and it was a really sad moment for me. And I just revisited both of those songs. Well, yeah, it's just a moment in two different contexts. In the first one, it's in Potato Man, where it's about being at work, um, and that taking away from things such as mourning or whatever. And that song, that's just an example. And then in Count to 20, that's kind of the whole idea of the song. So,
So not having enough space to mourn for this reason or that reason.
yeah.
Yeah, we were both at work when Leonard Cohen died, and we were at work when someone else died more recently, like a couple of, like before COVID. But yeah, it's just sort of a recurring theme in life where you're at work, you don't want to be there, you're like, oh, whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like on a break or something, or somebody just walks up and is like telling you like one of your heroes died, one of your either just like inspirational, like some great, artist, or an actor that you loved as like a little kid or something, just somebody like just died, and like you just have to work. Like you can't even deal with it. Like you're just like, wow, everybody in the world is like kind of reckoning with this event, whatever it is happening right now, and most of us are at work while we're doing this. Like it's just, yeah, it's just in the way, so in the way.
Yeah, I guess that was the vibe for me because I remember specifically like being, I think I was actually at school, but it's similar, in like when Prince died. So and someone just randomly told me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and so usually the last question I like to ask is, what's a band or artist in your local scene you want to give a shout out to?
Just one.
You can do as many as you want, but at least one. Greater than or equal to one.
Okay. Man. Well, I want to give a shout out to Box Cutter, first of all. Everyone can listen to Box Cutter. Everyone can listen to Box Cutter. I get to say that because I'm not in it. And yeah, there's a lot of really
right now. Yeah, there's this YouTube channel called Jaundice 850.
But it's like JONDUS.
Yeah.
Not like jaundice, like the liver.
Yeah. And he's been bringing his camera to shows for the past like 5 months. And like, yeah, Pensacola right now is really crazy with music. All the bands are like good, which is weird. Like they're not necessarily like my favorite like style of music, but there's just so many bands here constantly playing. So that would just be my main thing. If someone wanted to check out the Pensacola music scene, I'd say go to his channel and just wait till you find a band you like and like just watch their set. But we played with this band called Listener. That was pretty cool. I like this band Medieval Times, but now I'm in that band, so I can't really say that.
You like Faux Fox?
Yeah, Faux Fox.
They're like they're like a Travel to Mordor with me band.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like it's a little like unorthodox, but we have like two amazing organizations there in Pensacola that are run by like homies. And one is Strive, the trans initiative / LGBTQ. Just like they house people, they're all really like just radical people, and they are so amazing to be around, and they are so invested and involved in the music scene, and there's just like a lot going on with that. So Strive is like incredible, and then Food Not Bombs is like actually feeding like people who can't afford to eat. Like they're doing a great job, and they're not religious, it's Food Not Bombs, and they're completely not exclusionary or anything. And yeah, they have like a whole outpost and all that. There's like a tent city, and it's just incredible. So I don't know. It's like definitely all the bands. It's like I'm gonna just forget to name one band in Pensacola because like everybody's just on their like A game right now, and it's like an honor to go to a show, and it's like it's all locals. Like this feels really like
I don't know. Like, it feels like a showcase right now. So yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. Tell people where to find your music, what your social medias are, any upcoming projects you want people to know about, that sort of thing.
You should listen to our music on Bandcamp, which is surrounderband.bandcamp.com. And then we're also on Spotify too. And we're Surrounder Band on Instagram. And yeah, and we're like 10 songs deep into our third full length. So that's kind of what we're focusing on this year.
It's weird for us to listen to our first album sometimes. It feels like a very different band because we're erratic in our eras. But I mean, I still like that album, but it does feel like I'm listening to somebody else's album a little bit. So I always just tell people to start here and work your way backwards. If you just want to know, like, where do I even, which album on the Bandcamp or whatever. That's usually what I tell people.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming on. It's been a joy. Hopefully I'll see y'all at some point soon if y'all are touring North Florida, South Georgia area, I guess.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, we want to get to Valdosta for sure.
Yeah, for real.
And thanks for having us on. I've never been on a podcast. I didn't know if we were supposed to talk about like DMT and like changing demographics in America or something. I don't know what people talk about on podcasts.
I think y'all did well. Yeah. Hopefully I wasn't intimidating. I'm sure it wasn't too. I mean, yeah. Thanks again. Hope y'all have a great evening, all that sort of thing. Yeah.
You're
Bye.
great at questions, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Y'all were great at
You are.
answers.
Oh, thank you. Have a good
All right.
one.
All right, bye, Jade.
Bye, Jade.
We're so sorry about the service. Our time family, the hand that feeds. So I follow down my teeth. Can't fight, but I got enough to eat. Coping through, so my own smile, my face hurts. We're so sorry about the service, we wanna cry. And the cooks can't help but get drunk every night.